All right, let's talk about what's inside your recycling bin. Not just, what you put in there, but what actually happens to it after it leaves your curb. Because it turns out there are these hidden rules. Rules that decide if your plastic bottle gets a second chance or just gets tossed in a landfill.
You know the feeling. We've all been there. You finish a drink, you see that little triangle symbol, and you toss it in the blue bin, feeling like you did a good thing. But have you ever had that little nagging thought in the back of your head? Like, does this even work? Is this bottle actually going to get recycled? Well, the answer is way more complicated and honestly way more fascinating than you probably think.
And here's the thing you gotta understand. Your good intentions at the bin, that's the very last step in a super long process. A process that can get completely derailed by one single choice, made on a designer's computer months or even years earlier. Yeah, a label, a color, even the glue they use can doom a package from the very start. So let's follow that package and see exactly why.
To really get it, we need to follow that bottle on its journey. And I want you to think of it less like a conveyor belt and more like a brutal obstacle course, a recycler's gauntlet, where only the smartest, best-designed packages actually make it to the finish line. This gauntlet, it's got three main challenges. First, there's a high-speed sorting test to see if the machines can even tell what it is. Second, it gets thrown into a massive wash tank for the separation trial, where it has to split from its cap and label. And only if it passes both of those tests can it get ground down into valuable plastic flakes. So you ready? Let's go to that first checkpoint. So picture this. Your bottle is tumbling down a conveyor belt with thousands and thousands of other items. Its first test is a high-tech scanner, and the question is dead simple. Can the machine even see what kind of plastic it is? The technology doing this work is called near-infrared sorting, or NIR for short. It's pretty cool, actually. A scanner shoots a beam of light at your bottle, and the way that light bounces back creates a kind of unique fingerprint. It tells the machine exactly what kind of plastic it's looking at. This is how the facility separates the really valuable stuff, like clear PET soda bottles, from everything else. It is literally the bouncer at the door of the recycling club. And right here, this is where one simple design choice can change everything. You got a clear bottle with a smallish label. The scanner sees that valuable PET plastic and says, yep, you're good, and it goes on. But what about a bottle made with black plastic? Or one of those that's wrapped in a full-body plastic sleeve? Well, to the scanner, it's a ghost. It can't see the good stuff underneath. It gets confused, and a target little puff of air blasts it right off the line and into the reject pile. And just like that, it's headed for the landfill. So how much label is too much? You might be surprised how specific this gets. The industry guidelines actually flag a bottle as problematic if the label covers more than 60% of its surface. That's the magic number. That's the tipping point where the risk of the scanner getting blinded is just too high. A simple percentage, right? But it has massive consequences. Okay, let's say our bottle made it. It passed the scanner test. Awesome. But the gauntlet is not over, not by a long shot. Next up is what I like to call the big wash. The bottle gets shredded into a bunch of little flakes. Then everything gets dumped into this giant tank of water for the next test, float-sink separation. The physics here are really simple, but kind of brilliant. The PET plastic from the bottle itself, that's dense, so it sinks to the bottom. But the plastic used for most caps and labels, that's lighter, so it floats to the top. In a perfect world, this perfectly separates the valuable PET flakes from all the other junk, but it only works if every single piece plays by the rules. And what's the single most critical component to make this whole stage work? It's not the bottle, it's not the cap. You're not going to believe it, it's the glue that holds the label on. This tiny, sticky, overlooked detail is secretly the hero or the villain of this whole part of the process. Because here's the deal. Not all plastics get the same spa treatment. PET flakes from things like soda bottles, they get a super hot chemical bath. We're talking 60 to 80 degrees Celsius. The adhesive on that label has to be designed to let go cleanly at that exact temperature. But HDP plastic for like milk jugs, it gets a much gentler, warm wash, around 40 degrees. So if a designer messes up and uses the wrong glue on the wrong bottle, the label either won't come off at all Or worse, it'll just melt into a sticky goo that ruins the entire batch of plastic. So really, any little part that doesn't follow these very specific rules just becomes a contaminant. The wrong glue gums up the machinery. A label made from the wrong kind of plastic, like PVC, will sink right along with the good PET flakes, totally contaminating them. Same thing goes for those tiny metal springs you find in lotion pumps. Even something that seems innocent, like a paper label, can shed all these fibers that just make the water in the final plastic a dirty mess.
Okay, so after hearing all the ways this can go wrong, it probably sounds a little hopeless, right? Well, here's the good news. There is a clear blueprint for getting this right. It all comes down to a set of rules called Design for Recyclability. And it's basically the designer's ultimate cheat sheet.
I mean, just listen to this. This is an actual tip from the pros. It sounds super technical, right? But what you're looking at is basically the perfect secret recipe for a recyclable bottle. Let's translate. It's saying you need a floatable label, one made from plastic we know will float. You need an approved wash-off glue that we know will release cleanly in that hot water. Add some perforations to a sleeve so people can tear it off, keep the label small, and absolutely no carbon black inks that blind the scanners. This one sentence, this is the whole formula for success.
So let's just boil it all down into the golden rules. Rule 1. Try to use a single family of plastics that separate easily. Rule 2. Use smart adhesives that are actually tested and proven to work. Rule 3. Keep the bottle itself light and clear. Stay away from those dark colors that the scanners hate. 4. Don't print directly on the bottle. Keep the ink on the label that washes away. And finally, number 5, design the caps to float, which means getting rid of all those hidden metal bits.
So now you know. You know the rules of the gauntlet, you've been behind the curtain, and that means you can now become a packaging detective right in your own kitchen. You now have the power to spot the good, the bad, and the ugly design choices sitting on the store shelf.
So here's your checklist. These are the red flags to look for out in the wild. You see a bottle with one of those cool-looking full-body sleeves, but there's no perforation to help you tear it off? That's a red flag. A sleek black plastic bottle, the scanner probably can't see it. A paper label that feels like it's fused to the plastic, probably gonna make a mess. And those lotion pumps with the hidden metal springs, a classic contaminant. When you see this stuff now, you know exactly why it's a problem.
So the next time you go to toss a bottle in the bin, just remember, you are playing the final part in a long, long story. But the most important chapters, they were already written. The real power to make recycling work better doesn't just rest with us at the bin. It rests with the designers who decide, with every single choice they make, whether that package was ever really built to survive the gauntlet in the first place.